to another yin session. Hopefully you got some kind of props, bolster, big pillow, blankets, small cushion for those little ledges that you might need. So let's start with a little easy sit. So whether that's cross-legged or whether you want to be on your knees or whether you've got a little small stool to sit on, or again a handy bolster, but we're just going to be here for 3 minutes. Just allow ourselves to settle here in this first posture. So find a comfortable seat using whatever props you need. Settle in, place the hands gently on the legs. Find some uplift through the spine, so the chin slightly tucks down and back so that the crown of the head softly lifts. We can close the eyes or lower the gaze. Follow the sound. Feel the connection of the feet onto the mat, the angle of the legs, the hands on the knees or thighs, into our sitting bones and our seat, and finding the spine gently lifting up through the crown. Face can soften, shoulders can relax down the back. And we start to observe the movement of the breath, expanding as we breathe in, releasing, softening as you breathe out. Just follow your natural breath. Noticing where you feel the movement the most. That expansion and the softening as you breathe out. Here, right now. Coming home to the moment. Coming home to you. So we allow the eyes to lift gently. When we move out of this posture, we slowly come with the legs out in front into caterpillar. So the legs are long, and maybe find your props before you settle in, just in case you want them. So I quite like to place the bolster over my knees, feel the weight of that, allowing my legs to relax completely and sink into the floor. Feel that the sitting bones can move backwards, so maybe move some of that flesh back as you move from side to side. And then a little uplift through the spine, through the central column, and then slowly rolling forward until you find that nice stretch up the backs of the legs, about 4 or 5 on a scale of 10. So we want to be feeling something in yin, but we also want to keep the muscles as soft as we can. So maybe here's a good time just to remind ourselves of those 3 main principles of yin yoga. Number 1, come in at the right depth, so don't go straight to number 8 on your scale. Come in at about 4 or 5, let the body settle. Number 2, time. We give ourselves usually about 3 minutes, maybe 5. It can be less if you struggle in a particular pose, then you can always start off at a minute. So find the right depth, give yourself time to relax into it, to allow the muscles to soften. And then number 3 is stillness. Stillness of the body allows the muscles to disengage. Every time you move, your muscles re-engage. So allow yourself to be as soft and still as you can. Of course, if there's pain, you need to move out of that. We've only got a few breaths left here. Slowly release. Remember, we move out of these postures with as little effort and movement as possible. Slowly going to lie back. So always I move my hips towards my feet so that my knees are bent and I can just ease my way down slowly onto my back. Maybe release the legs down if that feels okay. If not, you can keep the feet on the mat. We're just taking a moment here, called the rebound. So we're allowing some space, some time for the body to respond, as it were, to the stimulus that it's received, the stretching down the legs, the compression at the top of the hips as you bend forward. And you might feel that now at the top of the hips tingling. So we take a few breaths here and then we slowly move to the next. Draw the knees in. We have a small circle of the knees, just easing the lumbar and the sacrum. Roll the other way too. And then perhaps using the hinge, bringing the palms under the bottom, lifting the head and the shoulders. The feet go down a little, you breathe in, the feet come up, and you hinge, so a right angle of the body coming all the way up. I'm just going to turn around so you can see me a little bit better. We'll start from butterfly, but we're not staying here. I just use this to get into deer. So we bring our hands to the left of the mat, the right hip lifts, we take the right leg behind us. Now you might find that you need a little block here or a small cushion underneath the hips. You're going to bring that left foot in towards the knee. So your left leg is parallel, your left shin is parallel with the side of your mat there. And your right foot is behind, kind of close to your right hip. And this might be enough for you if you're feeling it already. We don't want too much in the knees. If you're feeling it in the knees, then it's too deep and you really do need a ledge underneath. So you bring the hips higher and take the pressure off the twisting of the knee there. Because this isn't a completely natural angle for the knee. So you do need to listen to your body. So find again the right depth for you, coming in at about 4 or 5. Finding any props you might want. And deciding whether you want to just sit here and sink the hips down with the back nice and straight and close the eyes. Or you might want to roll forward using that prop, placing the elbows down, maybe dropping the head. Coming back to the breath, finding that connection again. Allowing the exhalations to sink down through the body, releasing, softening. If it gets too much, come out early, have yourself a longer rebound, place the hands on the belly and follow the breath. But if you're okay, hang out here for a bit longer. See if you can find that sweet spot. Couple more breaths if you can. If your body's already screaming release. And let's slowly draw back up. Let's go straight to the other side, because this is all in the hips and there's a little bit in the knees and the lower back. So we start back from the butterfly, we bring the hands to the right, left hip lifts, and we swing that leg around. And this might feel quite different on this side. Again, you might need something under the hip if it's not meeting the ground naturally. Excuse me. Because you know what, if you relax into it, what happens is sometimes after a minute or so, the body might invite you to go a little bit deeper. You might relax, and you might find that after a while you can remove the prop or shift the weight and get deeper. But we never force it. We allow that to happen at its own pace. And again, folding forward if that's good for you, or sinking down through the hips, down through your seat with a nice tall straight spine. So we've always got options. And if you're doing this at home, you might want some soft music playing in the background. Nothing too engaging. Maybe something that you don't normally listen to, as that might evoke certain memories, pulling you away from the body and the practice. So it's about finding some music that helps you to become soft and still, echoing the beautiful practice that is yin. Just a few more breaths here. Always good to know. Give yourself time to prepare coming out, rather than having a bell and suddenly jumping out of the pose. A timer can be good as long as you release slowly. So gently, with as little effort as possible, perhaps moving anything out of the way, and taking your rebound, lying down. If lying on the back isn't working for you today, lie on your side or on your front, but just take a few moments. Allow the body to settle and see what arises. No need to search for any signals, just notice what's already here. We take a few breaths. No need to rush from pose to pose. And we're going to draw those knees in. Maybe let's take the knees out and just roll the ankles out. Ease them out after Diya. Diya can be intense on the ankles, go the other way too. And again, find your own way up, maybe rolling onto a side if that's easier for you, or using the hinge like we did before. Just make sure you lift the head and the shoulders to engage the core when you're using the hinge. So we're going to come around onto all fours, and I'll just move this back here, make myself a little bit more space. So we're going to start from tabletop, hands under the shoulders, and I've got blanket spread out here underneath me, so if you've got sore knees, sometimes that can be helpful to have the blanket there. What we're going to do is we're going to go into swan. So we're going to draw the right knee forward towards the right hand, and then you can lift the heel of the left leg, and you can slide that back if it feels that you want to go quite deep. You might want to wriggle or roll. I kind of do a little wriggle out with my right foot to come under my left hip, but for you, maybe you want to keep it under the right hip. So whether it's under the right hip, the left hip, or even a little bit further forward. This is upright swan. We just settle the hips down. The left leg is long at the back. We lift through the arms and the chest. And this is just a kind of transition into sleeping swan. So if you like this pose, you can hold it for longer, but we're going to go down, and here it can be handy to have that bolster here to lean over if you can't come all the way down onto your forearms. So basically bring the body forward, whether it's over a bolster or a big pillow, or whether it's just straight down onto the floor. Make a pillow for your head, maybe with flat hands, or maybe with one potato, two potato if your head doesn't want to go all that way. Settling in, we take the time to allow the body to settle into the posture. Checking that the knee joint is okay. There's no pain signals coming from there. Connect back to the breath. Find where you can feel it moving in the body. Three more breaths. If it's too much, release early and just come to lie down on your front. So when you're ready, gently draw the hands back onto the mat, back towards the knees. Press up from the arms, draw the hips back so that the knee starts to slide back. Come all the way down onto your front for a moment. Again, make a pillow, maybe with flat hands, under your chin or under your forehead. And just see what it feels like in the body to have worked that right leg and not the left. If you're experiencing tingling, warmth, that's the cells, sometimes blood cells, other cells, moving, being stimulated and doing their job. So let's draw back up to tabletop, and this time it's the left knee forward. This is why a blanket's good for this one. And place that left foot either under the same hip, the opposite hip, or a little bit further forward. I'm just going to move my bolster, it's annoying me. I can use it here at the front to show you what I meant before. So that right leg, you can extend it and make it longer and draw the hip completely over the left foot. You've got your bolster, your big cushion, you can roll it in. Do your few breaths in upright swan. If you don't want to go that high, you can come onto your elbows. And after a few breaths here, you can then roll the body forward and use the bolster to rest on, either this way or lengthways. You can use it, especially if you've got your left foot under left hip, you can place the bolster under the right hip and along the right side of the torso to completely support yourself and allow the knee to not have any discomfort. So make sure you're in the right position for you. Find your breath. Relax, be light. Doesn't matter how deep you get, what matters is you're feeling it. Relax into it a little bit, and that you're here in this moment, in your body, on your mat, taking care of yourself. A few more breaths here, 3 more breaths. If you want, come out early. Slowly lifting back into the hands, drawing the hands towards the knees. Lift the hips, move the knee back and release completely down onto your fronts if that's okay for you. If not, you can come into a child's pose. So either on the belly or into a nice soft child's pose. Take a few more breaths here. Coming up, if you're not in child's pose already, come into child's pose. Come into a nice wide-legged child's pose if you can. Again, options here. If this is too much for your knees with the hips back on the heels, use your bolster, bring the hips over like that instead, and go for that kind of posture. If you're in child's pose and you're nice and deep and low, you might want to try frog. So I'm going to turn around. I'm going to show you. You come from tabletop, so hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips, and then you basically walk your knees out to the sides, or you give them some encouragement out with your hands. Again, you'll definitely need a blanket on your mat for this, unless you've got really tough knees. My weight's on my hands, so my weight's not completely over my knees yet. Activate your feet, so do frog's feet. So I don't know if you can see, I'm not relaxing my ankles, I'm turning my toes out, and then you basically keep the hips above the knees and see if you can come onto your elbows. I'm going to turn around so you can see me from the side. So tabletop, knees go out as much as you want them to until you feel something in the groin, and then maybe onto the elbows, maybe find that bolster if not, and just spend maybe a minute here. It's quite intense unless you're really open, so let's say 5 breaths here. If you don't like this, just stay in child's pose. If it's hurting the knees, come out straight away. Maybe a little rock forwards and backwards. And then walk the elbows back in. Maybe bring the hips towards the heels, or draw the knees in first. Whew. Release out of that. Let's bring the legs all the way round and come into a butterfly. Nice soft butterfly, nice long diamond shape, if that feels okay for you. If not, adjust. You can draw the feet in a little bit closer if that feels better. You just want to keep it soft, so not activating. Again, I like to just have a little sway and move the flesh away from the sitting bones so I can really come into my seat. Props handy, and then maybe hanging out here. If you are already feeling it, you can turn your bolster on its end and just prop your head like so. If you want to fold further forward, use the bolster and just drape the arms over and soften forward into the pose. Follow the breath and allow that softness to come down through the body. Follow the expansion outwards as you breathe in. Follow that softening as you breathe out. There's you know those strip cartoons you used to see in newspapers? I've seen one where there's two monks sat meditating, an old monk and a young monk, and the old monk turns to the young monk and says, "Nothing happens next. This is it." Nothing happens next. It's the same in yin. You find your comfort, you find your pose, and you simply be. If you're in pain, you move out of that pain, you adjust your posture. You lie down, you work with your breath. The breath helps you to relax, to be in the moment, to step away from the hamster wheel of the mind, the amygdala that keeps spurring out those negative thoughts. We've got about a minute left here. I'm just looking to see, I've got a poem here for you guys. So, this is called The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. "Mend my life," each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. I like Mary Oliver. She's got lots of really beautiful poems. Let's release now from that. Come all the way down, find your rebound pose, whatever that may be. Give the body some time to settle and relax for a few moments and just be. Have the luxury of lying in between many of these poses. Just checking the time. Perfect. So what do you feel? Where do you feel it? How would you describe it? Just draw the knees in slowly. Maybe have a little sway. Ease into the lower back. Now, if you haven't got a bolster, you'll want to come into happy baby with the knees out to the side. Maybe the hands on the backs of the thighs or the shins or the feet, and just hang out for a couple of minutes or so. But if you have got a bolster, or if you've got a wall available to you and you haven't got a bolster, so if you've got a wall available to you, you sidle right up to it, to the side, you lie back, and then you swing your bottom round and you put your legs up the wall, and you relax, let the legs be heavy, let the legs drop in to the hips. If you've got a bolster, you can roll that bolster towards you so that it's next to the bottom, and then maybe lift the hips, roll the bolster under until you find the right place for you. It's nice if you've got a nice squashy bolster that you can kind of nestle into, and then legs up. You should hopefully just find that point more or less straight away where the legs just hang out, they're not moving, they're not as stressed. You can have the feet apart, you can have them together, entirely up to you. Just let the whole weight of the legs just drop into those big hip sockets. And we'll take a couple of minutes here and breathe and relax. Viparita Karani, this is called in Sanskrit, and it's a beautiful pose once you get into it and relax. We are reversing the effects of gravity on the legs, so great for tired feet, tired legs, but also all that blood, the venous blood coming down through the legs, so good for circulation because the blood's going the opposite way to normal inversion, and we're getting those nutrients of the fresh, circulated, oxygenated blood nourishing the heart. The heart can relax a little bit, and then it just keeps on feeding down past the heart and up into the brain, nourishing the brain too. So good for helping to reduce the onset of Alzheimer's, dementia, any of those mind problems, issues. Let's slowly release. So draw the knees, bend the knees and draw the feet down towards the hips. If you're at the wall, it's much the same. You're going to roll away from the wall. If you're on your bolster, you're going to roll the bolster out, and you're just going to relax. You can use the bolster under your knees if you like here, or whatever works for you to relax completely onto the floor now. Nothing left to do. Let the body slowly settle. Connect with the breath moving in the body. Feeling that rise and fall through the belly. Surrender. Relax with each exhalation. Giving yourself time here to come to, if that's what you need to do, if you've got a day to get along with. If not, you can just carry on relaxing, following the breath. Thank you again for watching.